let's go to our nice little segment where we're going to talk to all four players tonight, where we're going to ask them all the questions about how they came up with their decks this week, about, different bits and bobs. So in seamless fashion, let's transition to all six of us on the screen. Ta-da! Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to this week number 5. Arguably my favorite week so far. I'm looking forward to the craziness that is going to be, on the screens for everybody to look at. I'm going to just start with a nice simple question. Can everyone raise their hand if their deck's vintage legal? And if it's not vintage legal, keep your hand down if it's legacy legal. Like, it talks about, like, this week is going to be crazy. We've seen them a bit iffy. Some people vintage. Okay, well, I'm going to talk about how you came to this conclusion. When we took the reins off, we give you free will to bring the most broken decks you possibly can. Mason, talk to me about your decks and why you brought them this week.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the first things I brought was Nadu. Like, there's so many different ways to build your Nadu deck, from like there's Green Sun Zenith and Chrome Mox and Mox Opal, and just like you do a birthing pod thing. I saw some people talking about you could do Skull Clamp stuff, and some other competitors, maybe took it even further than I did. I tried to kind of, abuse Mox Opal a little bit and do that sort of thing, and so I'm really excited to play it. And then I really wanted to play Yorion. I used to love playing 4-color. And I'm jokingly calling my deck High C. And so I brought it back because I love it. But my deck is just basically mono Mythics and then Arkham's Astrolabe Beanstalk. And, that's just my entire deck.
I love it.
I'm just calling it the High C deck. I'm juicing that value. It's all Mythics. I can't wait to play it. Might not be the best deck in the room, but it's the best of my heart. And so I like that. And then I brought Scam. I thought about playing Hogak. I did some testing with some friends. And it was just really hard to play Hogak through the hate. And I kind of thought everyone else would have it and there would be graveyard hate. And so I thought I'd sidestep it. And I brought a Scam list that is a little interesting, but basically really trying to target certain decks that I expected to bring. And nobody brought those decks. So I'm a little anxious. It is what it is. But that was my process for this week.
That's pretty interesting. Just Anouk, ask me a question. Flage, what rarity is Flage?
It would go right in there. It's the perfect picture. Yeah.
Take that information how you want. Okay, Arya, go to you next. Talk to me about your decks and why you're bringing them this week.
Yeah, so one of the things I like to do when there's like an interesting deck building challenge for MTGO Masters is the first thing I'll do is ask Rejang, CFT Stock, what they think I should be playing, because they're one of the best deck builders in the world, and I'd say they're responsible for like 30 to 40% of my MTGO Masters decks, where they're like brews are pretty cool. And they said, well, Oops All Spells is broken, and I agreed with them, so I played Oops. And it said Nadu is broken, and I hemmed and hawed, and then they showed me their build, and I played Nadu. And then we jammed some matches, and Eldrazi just like kind of ran over a lot of decks. I mean, Eldrazi Winter existed for a reason, so I decided to register that. It was just, end of the day, like, my picks weren't super metagame targeted. I'm just trying to play the 3 best decks in the field, which I think these are, and I'm pretty happy with the builds. CFT's initial builds were already really promising, and then I made a few tweaks here and there that I think really streamlined the decks.
Cool, great. Right, Ben, coming to you next. Why these decks? Why this week?
I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I'm looking to kill people as quickly as possible, either through 2020's a big belch, or, I mean, Glimpse of Nature is kind of a messed up Magic card.
Yeah,
I think it's a little broken, and so I'd like to do that. You asked if our decks are vintage or legacy legal. One of my decks is not legal in either of those formats, so I think that's a pretty good sign.
That should have been the challenge this week. Bring a deck that is not legal in vintage or legacy and see how well it goes. Talk to me about the last deck there again that you were saying. What was the last deck you bought?
The Elves deck. I brought Elves with 4 Glimpse of Nature and 4 Skull Clamp. And initially I was like, Skull Clamp might be too slow, which is kind of a wild thing to say. But that is also did not prove to be true. This card is messed up, and so I'm playing 4 of it.
Love it. Okay, last up, Arnie, talk to me. Why these decks? Why this week, my friend?
Well, I gotta tell you, I feel a little bit less prepared than last time. I think with the tribal stuff, I really got there. This format is just like so unexplored and like so big as well, so vast. So I don't know. I brought Timo Rhinos, which I stumbled upon because there was like a tournament a while ago where a player brought Timo Rhinos. And that looked good to me. It's my play style, just like the deck. And then also took Black Green Depths. When sifting through old events, there's like 1 or 2 per year. And a very good article by Reed Duke on Channel Fireball. That was sort of the standout deck. So I just playing it safe today. But I'm kind of feeling a little bit, I might be like 2 years behind, and like Arya sounded pretty confident.
Yeah, there's this bird wizard
but
thing at the minute. It's
there's-
pretty good ahead, mate. I'm not too sure, but I've heard it's pretty good. It made me. We'll find out tonight.
Yeah. The last deck is Urza Oko 8 ring, just slamming those and hoping that works.
Oh, right. Next question's coming from Anu.
Yeah, so first off, if anybody's looking to see the collection of 12 deck lists that have been brought to compete with today, you can check them out at moxfield.com/MTGO. My question, so we know no ban list modern, it's existed for a while, and we've seen, decks rise and fall through the tumultuous format that it is. But one thing that has sort of brought it back to the forefront for our season is Modern Horizons 3. And I challenged all the players this time around to bring at least one card, from Modern Horizons 3 to see if it actually made an impact. So, Arne, I guess I'll start with you. Did you feel like the set really made an impact on the cards that you wanted to play, or you didn't really feel like it was there? And then we'll just go around Ben, Arya, and then Mason.
Yeah, so in my specific case with the free decks I chose, I couldn't really find any like really powerful thing that pushed that archetype. So in my case, I just have like 2 consigned to memory in the Oko deck, and I have in the sideboard. And then I have like a Vexing Bauble in my Urza Saga deck to fetch. Couldn't really find anything crazy, but I'm sure like, especially with the Eldrazi archetype, there's some nice ones in MH3.
Yeah, Ben, how do you feel?
Well, when I first sent my deck, my Dark Depths deck had 4 copies of Crop Rotation. I'm like, oh, I broke it. And then that card's not in Modern Horizons 3. And so I had to restructure. But I don't know, the Belcher list, like I got to swap out. I kind of did the same research that Arne had done to look at previous events. But the Belcher list, you just get to change the MDFC cards that come into play tapped. And now they come into play untapped, which seems pretty huge. And Wirewood Symbiote for the Elves deck means that I can kind of live the Legacy Elves dream of past years and just pretend like I'm not drawing my cradles.
Arya, any words? I feel like your deck lists have a lot to say for Modern Horizons 3.
Yeah, so my 3 decks have 10, 13, and 15 cards from Modern Horizons 3 respectively. And honestly, this was without my trying to build the Rana. Like, my thought was, I'll build these decks and then maybe I have to put cards from Modern Horizons 3 in them, and I didn't even have to try. There's a lot of really strong cards that, worked well with cards that are banned. So, like, Nadu Springheart Nantuko is like one whole MH3 package. Vexing Baubles in like all of my decks because it's really powerful when people are trying to free cast spells. And then Eldrazi, there's a bunch of Eldrazi from MH3. And oops, there's a bunch of MDFCs from MH3. So just like kind of the theory is that like there's all these no ban list modern decks that existed before, and they were quite strong. But the new things that are available with MH3 are even stronger than anything that was previously on the playing field. And so hopefully the MH3 cards will carry me to victory.
I love to see it. And finally, last but not least, Mason, tell me about the beans, the Orion. MH3 good?
Yeah, so I mean, like, my decks, I think, have some of the least MH3 cards of all of them. In fact, my scam deck has Old Border, Fury, and Grief. So I really scammed Anu this week when I was going for that one and getting him on that thing there. So, we stuck it through the line. No, but jokes aside, like, I think, like, the MH cards are very, very strong. And they are very impressive. Like, I brought the Nadu deck as well, playing a lot of the similar things, and those sort of packages are very, very good. And my want to play sort of the beans deck that I love, those decks are so like metagame tuned typically that I kind of just ended up playing like a bunch of things I know that are strong. And a lot of the MH cards don't really fit in the 4-color stuff outside of Flage, where it's an incredibly powerful card that clearly slots right in there. You're welcome for it. And with the scam deck, like I said, I didn't really have much. And I originally had some stuff and honestly cut them at the last second and forgot the rule. So like, I had like some cards like the Bogart and the Vexing Bauble. I think those things are good in the deck. And I decided to switch some things up and made some changes that made it maybe not the best, but I think you can succeed without a ton of MH cards. The MH cards are really strong. That goes without saying, but you don't have to have them to succeed, I think.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to get players.
I got a question. No. I got one more question. I got one more question.
Okay. Take
I
it
need
away.
to ask it because we got to drag this out a little bit because I don't think tonight's going to go. I don't think it's going to be our longest episode tonight. Let's put it that way. I think we need to get some, extra minutes in here. So I've got one last question for you all. And obviously, the tonight's stipulation is you get to bring 3 different decks because each round you'll be banning a deck from your opponent. The first round, the choice of 3. The next round, choice of 2. And if you find yourself in the third match, the 1-1 record, you'll play the 1 remaining deck that you have. So you've got to be scared of some of the other decks that people have bought tonight. So I want to know what's the one deck tonight you want to try and dodge if you get to that last round. Starting with you, Mason, what's the one deck you do not want to play against tonight?
The one deck I don't want to play against that. It's a great question. Well, I fear nobody.
But
if I had to pick one for the thing, I think probably I'm gonna go with Ben's Belcher deck. I just don't have much in that regard. I kind of thought it's a deck people would bring, but I was hoping they just wouldn't be very well represented, and only one of us brought it, so I guess I got kind of lucky in that sort of department. So I guess that's my answer.
All right, Arya, what deck we trying to dodge?
So it's this complicated situation where there's not a single deck I'm trying to dodge as a whole. What I want to dodge are certain matchups. I don't want to play my Oops All Spells deck into Mason's 4-color deck with 8 to 11 main deck 8 pieces and then another 8 pieces on the sideboard. I don't want to play one of my decks that's off to turn 1 Blood Moon into Ben's Belcher deck because Ben's deck is really good at turn 1 Blood Mooning. And then I don't want to play my Eldrazi deck into these creature decks that go over the top of it with something like the Artifacts deck with Urza's and constructs of Urza's Saga could be tough for Eldrazi. So I think it's more about trying to dodge matchups and ban cleverly rather than just having certain decks you don't want to play against across the board.
I love it. Also, look that you're throwing the mind games out there as well, so everyone else are like, "Oh, hold on, if I don't do that, then she's going to do that," and we're going to have to go back and forth it. But Ben, talk to me. Which deck are we trying to dodge tonight?
It's probably a tie between Arya's Nadu deck. I don't like those 3 copyings of Vexing Bauble. I'm trying to cast spells and not spend mana. Or any of Arnie's Force and Negation decks. I was hoping that people would be more degenerate and leave the Force and Negations at home because they are kind of bad news. I'm thankful there isn't, I forget the name of the card, the Stifle card from MH3. There's not a lot of those running around.
Consigned to memory?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Arnie's the one with those too. He really came for you.
Oh, you actually have them? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Right.
I was sweating during lunch, thinking about what I'm going to ban. Like, oh god.
Okay, yeah, just looking to dodge Arnie. That's the plan.
That's my plan every time I see him in a tournament. Is dodge Arnie. Do not play Arnie. It's easy.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of took my joke away because I wanted to say, can I choose a player to dodge? And I wanted to say Arya, so you kind of got ahead of me there. Yeah, no, I guess the deck that I don't want to see is Mason Clark's Yorion deck. That looks just, I don't know. It just doesn't give me. It gives me an ick. That deck. It's a good deck, but I just don't want to play.
It gives you the ick. Okay, awkward.
It's not even a power level thing. He's just like, ugh, Yoria.
That's great. The sincerity of Mason's validation after you said that was very sweet. It was very nice to see. It was like, oh, Yorion.
It's like a compliment. It's like, oh, this
the worst deck in the field,
nothing.
But I love it. Oh my god, thank you.
Okay, right, on that one, we are going to kick off tonight's show. So we're going to get 2 of you back into the booth. We're going to get 2 of you down to the feature area as we come back to the booth with me and Anu.